Hi and welcome to Cyrus UN Science channel. Today we will focus on biology. We will ask a question: what is a living thing? When I say living things, some pictures come to mind. For example, elephants or cats or dogs, or birds like eagles, or fishes like sharks, or toads and frogs, which are amphibians, reptiles that are lizards or snakes, insects, crustaceans like crabs, or arachnids like spiders. But most people will think of, people. Yes, people are the most dominant and intelligent species in this world, but not the only, nor is the animal kingdom the only kingdom. There are plants, like these, flowers and trees, fungi, like mushrooms, algae, which are a kind of protist, bacteria, like cholera, or even arachne, a kind of very old living species. So what defines a living thing? There are a lot of definitions, but I like to stick to these 9 factors. Firstly, we have organization. Organization is cellular organization, as in the organization of cells inside an organism. The building blocks, most basic part of an organism is the cells. And a lot of the similar cells form a tissue. Different types of tissue form an organ. And different organs form an organ system, which in turn form you and me, organisms. Next, we have metabolism. Metabolism is the process of which we intake things like starch, glycogen, disaccharides or monosaccharides like glucose, fructose, or galactose, process them, store them as glycogen, and at last we distribute and utilize them as free glucose, which gives us the power to do what we have to do, like running or talking. Next, we have homeostasis, which is how we can maintain our body temperature or blood sugar amount even when the surrounding environment changes. It's a kind of maintaining your body. It's very important for our body. For example, if it's very hot outside, our body kind of sweats to keep ourselves cold. When it's very cold outside, we shiver to keep ourselves warm. This is a negative feedback loop for homeostasis. While a positive feedback loop can be something like, there's this tree, and one of the fruits on the tree has ripened. It will produce a chemical to tell the other fruits to ripen. And this is very important because you get to eat the fruits. Next, we have growth, and we look at this where the baby turns into a crawling baby, turns into a child, who turns into a teenager, who turns into an adult, who turns into a older adult, who turns into an elder. This is important because growing allows us to grow older, and most growth is like growing larger. A thing grows larger, but some are not. Now we look at reproduction, and we see the sperm and the egg, and this is sexual reproduction. There are 2 types of reproduction: sexual reproduction, which involves 2 organisms giving birth to a zygote, which is you and me, or it can be asexual reproduction, which involves one organism kind of like reproducing itself. There are 2 types of asexual reproduction, which is common: budding, which one organism kind of cuts himself open and like a little part of himself attaches to the ground next to him and grows into an organism that has the identical genome as the original plant. Or it could be the splitting of cells, or mitosis. This is when one cell splits into 2 cells, like one bacteria splits into 2 bacteria, and this is also an identical kind of reproduction. Next, we have response, where we react to an environmental stimuli. For example, a plant would grow towards a light because it needs the light's energy. And an animal like meat could be like we touch a very hot surface. Immediately our hands jump away because we realize it's hot and we don't want to touch it because it'll burn our hands. This is response to the environment. 7, we have evolution, where this is a very famous example where the monkeys turn into the crawling kind of human-like things, to the bending humans, to the kind of standing humans but with still a little hint of a tail, to like real standing humans that are pretty much like us, to us, Homo sapiens. This is evolution, where one organism changes throughout time to suit their environment better. Next, we have movement. This is an example of movement. A deer running, a cheetah running, or a human running, or a bacteria swimming with their flagella are all examples of movement. Lastly, we have excretion, and this is poop, but it doesn't necessarily have to be poop. Even like saliva is excretion. It's just your body getting rid of something in your body, mainly waste. Next, we have a debate. Is virus a living thing? This is a very important and also frequent debate in the science world. Is virus really a living thing? Even coronavirus, we can debate if it is a living thing. Now, let's see this checklist. So, do viruses have organization? Yes, viruses do have organization. And viruses have organization like this one. We can see the viral genome inside, which is kind of protected by the nucleocapsid, which is protected by the viral tegament, which is protected by the envelope, which is protected by the envelope protein, which binds to the receptors in our cell to trick the cells to like go into the cells. Next, metabolism. No, viruses do not have metabolism, except if they are inside a host cell, like they are inside and infecting a cell, like that's when they can have metabolism using the cell they are infecting. Next, homeostasis. Viruses are too small, they don't really have a brain, so they can't really do the process of homeostasis. Viruses don't grow. That's the fourth thing. Viruses don't grow. Viruses just stay the same all throughout their life, which is very, very short. Fifth thing, viruses kind of reproduce. They don't reproduce on their own like bacteria do, but they reproduce through viral replication, and that only happens when they are kind of infecting a host cell. For example, when this virus is infecting this bacteria, the virus penetrates the bacteria, sends in his genetic information, and creates new viruses which bursts out, destroys the cell. And then these viruses go to infect the whatever organism he's infecting. Next, we have evolution. Next is response first. Response is, well, they don't have response, like except for dying. And next we have evolution, and this is evolution, where how a virus mutates and turns into another virus. At first, this virus can be affected by some antibodies, but then it mutates so the antibodies cannot affect it. Now, this is very, very commonly seen in the influenza, seasonal influenza, winter influenza. And this one is how every single year there's a new influenza shot because the influenza virus mutates. COVID does the same thing. Remember, before we have Delta, now we have Omicron. Next, we have movement. Viruses don't really move. They kind of float around in fluid, like a plastic bag floating around in the swimming pool, following the kind of waves in the swimming pool. But they don't really move themselves, like swim. Next, we have excretion. Viruses don't do that. They don't really interact with the environment, except for maybe the envelope protein. They don't really, excrete stuff. Now, that's all I have for the debate of whether viruses are living things. Viruses, we really don't know, and we'll never know if viruses are living things, because viruses is really too debatable. Now let's recap on these 9 things. They are organization, metabolism, homeostasis, growth, reproduction, response, evolution, movement, and excretion. Thanks for watching this video, and remember to like, subscribe, and watch my other videos.